Hey guys, we are live. I am back for day 40. Well, those 40 days blew by really quickly. So one thing I've learned is that once I get started doing stuff like this and just committing to showing up, a certain time for a certain number of minutes, that the days fly by, right? All right, so I'm just going to get straight into it. We are reading chapter 37 we are continuing at chapter 37 of Steve Chandler's excellent book, Shift Your Mind, Shift the World. All right. Chapter 37. The coyote never has a bad day. The past few years have been exciting to walk myself and many of my clients out of the dark regions of fear, imagining a scary future, and into the light, present moment opportunity. Most people take their most unpleasant memories of the past and try to let their worried mind paint a future scenario out of that. But your past history does not have to be you. You are free. I was talking with my friend, the award-winning songwriter and comedian Fred Knight, about how beautifully disputation dismantles negative beliefs we hold about ourselves and others, about life and death. He agreed with me that once we stop believing those frightening thoughts, the mind clears up and there is no more stress. The story about anxious, frightful life is gone, and we are free to act and create anything we want, or just relax into quiet, happy feelings. Most of my life, I had done the opposite. I scared myself with stressful beliefs about time, death, and money, and how people don't get the seriousness of my situations. None of that was ever true. Yet believing it was true made me a stressful believer. I had designed a perfect system for a stressful life. In talking to Fred about all this, I whimsically sent him these words for my tombstone. Here lies a stressful believer who created hell on earth for himself and others out of his unquestioned thought system. Fred wrote back, that could be on everyone's tombstone. They could just start making generic tombstones with those words on it. And then Fred said something profound and strange and very beautiful. The coyote has no tombstone because the coyote never has a bad day. Neither does the coyote have a good day. Hungry all day is not a bad day. Napping all day full of rabbit is not a good day because the coyote has no judgment. He does not evaluate. No, good for me, bad for me. He avoids harm and seeks benefit without evaluation. So for him, there is neither time nor eternity. People are the only ones who evaluate, and they never stop. It may seem a curse, this process of deciding everything, of pushing all experience through a buzzsaw which divides into good and bad. But the curse finally lifts when the evaluation machinery is turned back on itself. When the experience of evaluation becomes the subject of evaluation, it becomes clear that without judgment, we would become like the coyote. What does Fred know about the coyote? Maybe more than most people. He is a 4-time Emmy Award winning writer for PBS's show, The Desert Speaks. So he has written all about the desert flora and fauna, but maybe never quite this deeply, and it was off the top of his head. Fred also writes songs and performs comedy for a living, and if you ever need a good laugh to pick you up, Go to his website and click on one of the many hilarious little routines he does there as his comic alter ego, Dr. Ludiger. Ludiger. Don't be lured into thinking your own comic alter ego is false. It is always much closer to the real you. The you that laughs and makes others laugh is more real and true to life than the stressful believer. Chapter 38. You can become a liberated circle. The great novelist Vladimir Nabokov was the first person I know of to point out that a spiral is a liberated circle. A mind full of expectations is nothing but a vicious circle. Stories about how others don't appreciate me add a weight to this vicious circle. Soon, this mind of mine is grinding like a sports car, stuck in first gear, crying out to be shifted. My own mind cries out to be shifted when I'm in some vicious circle story about how you should be acting. When shift happens, the circle is liberated. It is now a spiral, opening languorously upward in a heavenly swirl. There is no upper limit. In the courses I teach on mind shifting, I use Nabokov's observation that a spiral is a liberated circle. I draw the vicious circle of an unshifted mind on the whiteboard. Then I draw a spiral up from fear and anger and worry and resentment, up toward creativity, compassion, and spirit. There's a gold mine in that sky. And up there at the top, beyond the gold mine, there is even more. Things too wonderful to even talk about in linear language, or sentences that have beginnings and endings. What keeps us trapped so low and so far away from that level? Thinking there are other people, thinking negative thoughts about those people, unwillingness to forgive other people for being human. There is an old saying that pretty much says it all. To forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover the prisoner was you. Chapter 39. It is the sheer amount of time put in. Malcolm Gladwell's great and intriguing book, Outliers, talks about how many hours the Beatles played together before they became famous, much more than other bands of their time. They started out obscurely in the city of Hamburg, Germany. Gladwell says, and what was so special about Hamburg? It wasn't that it paid well, it didn't, or that the acoustics were fantastic, they weren't, or that the audiences were savvy and appreciative, they were anything but. It was the sheer amount of time the band was forced to play. Here's John Lennon in an interview with the Beatles after the Beatles disbanded, talking about the band's performances at a Hamburg strip club called the Indra. We got better and got more confidence. We couldn't help it with all the experience playing all night long. It was handy them being foreign. We had to try even harder, put our heart and soul into it to get ourselves over. In Liverpool, we'd only ever done 1 hour sessions. And we just used to do our best numbers, the same ones at every one. In Hamburg, we had to play for 8 hours, so we really had to find a new way of playing. Gladwell reports that the Beatles ended up traveling to Hamburg 5 times between 1960 and the end of 1962. By the time they had their first burst of success in 1964, they had performed live an estimated 1,200 times, which is extraordinary. Most bands don't perform 1,200 times in their entire careers. In my book, Reinventing Yourself, I asked readers to consider taking possession of the most powerful secret weapon in the world. That secret weapon is called practice. And it is indeed a secret to, I'm guessing this number based on my observations, 93.1% of America. Pick it up and you'll give yourself what feels like an unfair advantage over everyone else you know. Malcolm Gladwell's book cites case after case where people who we thought simply had amazing talent actually, like the Beatles, had practiced more than anyone else. What a strange secret to uncover. It may turn out that one of my favorite sayings is more true than we realized. Only the disciplined are free. It's only when I am undisciplined that all my time gets taken up with distraction. And there's no freedom or mastery in that. Freedom and mastery arise from practicing my profession's most useful discipline. Chapter 40. Let this ladder shift your mind. When two people get together in a coaching session, you now have the brain power, the mind power, the soul power, the life power of two human beings working together. It's not so much 1 plus 1 as it is 2 squared. You may say, why would one need a coach for that? Why doesn't that synergistic power just happen every time any two people talk together or get together? Because they're not consciously there to produce change. In fact, quite often they're there to belabor a conflict. That's why so many relationships slowly go south. They lapse into conflict. One person wants and expects so much from the other person that disappointment becomes the theme. But in coaching, mind shifting occurs upward because the minds are after the same thing. Some people also have a shift occur in a musical setting when they are in tune with the vibrations of the song. Other people when they exercise. Toby Esler wrote a book on the spiritual power of getting out there and running. When the body is open, the spirit centers. Sometimes I draw a ladder to illustrate this phenomenon. People who see the ladder suddenly have a visual picture of what's happening inside their mind. Previously, they wondered, why am I stuck? Or why is life not seeming to work for me? Now they can see that the answer is pretty simple and open. They are low on their ladder. But this ladder, a ladder of human consciousness, can be ascended with a series of shifts in the mind. This is hard to see when you are stuck in your own story and stuck in your own belief system. So I draw the ladder either on a piece of paper or on the whiteboard. At the very bottom of the ladder, I put the word death. I want people to be mildly shocked into a realization that that would be their lowest level of consciousness. Then I say, after writing the word death at the bottom of the ladder, if you are trying to persuade someone at this level of consciousness to purchase something from you, you've got to be surreally good. The next step up is fear. Fear is the next step up from death. It's almost the lowest possible level of living human consciousness. It is really where everything stops. If we could see that and understand it, we would understand people so much better. We'd understand ourselves so much better too. We'd shift. Because that once that first shift happens, up from fear, all the other shifts are now possible. Courage returns. We were born with it. And courage is the virtue that makes all the other virtues possible. Chapter 41. All my anger comes from fear. Anger is a mask for fear. It's a way people transmute fear. So whenever you're angry, know that it's based on a fear. It was caused by a fear. There is no way that you could be angry without feeling threatened. The two can't exist apart from each other. Anger feels more powerful than fear. That's why people execute the mind shift. It's a way that the ego strengthens itself so that it feels like it finally has a little power around this fear. Because I feel helpless when I just feel the fear. Helpless is not a great feeling. It does not hold a candle to being royally ticked off. So now I am angry and I can push my focus outside of me to an object. I can now identify who or what I want to blame. There's got to be somebody causing this fear in me. It's you, or it's a corporation, or it's the government, or it's the market, or it's some other person. Now I go up the ladder a step higher, and you'll find resentment, a less dangerous form of anger. It's milder but more ongoing. It can permeate the day. If I resent this person, it can pull me down creatively and energetically every time I think of him. It disconnects me from any possibility of enthusiasm. Enthusiasm? That's the place where all great things in life are created. Emerson saw this. Nothing great, he said, was ever created without enthusiasm. When you jump to the highest part of the ladder, way, way up there, way above worry, resentment, anger, fear, and death, there is spirit. There is absolute enthusiasm. There is humor, creativity, joy, and infinite energy. And that's where we want to keep allowing the shift to take us. Because when we can access that, the ultimate mind shift, problems look hilarious. Problems really look like the funniest things we could think of. They're not real problems anymore. They're just an adventure. And that comes from the ultimate mind shift to the very highest level. This ladder is something I draw so people can actually get a picture of where they are vertically at any given moment. Where am I? Am I down? Am I down low? Stuck in fear or worry? If so, I'm not accessing my creativity or my greatest energy or my imagination. Those states of mind are high on top of the ladder. Creativity doesn't live down on the lower rungs. Those are the rungs that keep me stuck. I only see yes and no, black and white, bad and good. A narrowly critical mindset trapped in a small part of the linear left side of the brain. But if I can shift and go, oh man, I will be in spirit, I'll be in creativity, I'll be in joy. Now I'll keep shifting so my life opens up. so I can expand myself into the joy I felt when I was young, because that was the real me. I knew it all the time. I don't actually have to shift before I take good action. I can take the good action in a low mood. I don't have to wait. And sometimes just getting into the game allows thought to drop away, and the rising up the rising up the ladder happens on its own. All right, guys, let's do chapter 42 tomorrow night. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream.